Okay, here's a wicked length and width problem. This is Math 1513, Northern Oklahoma College, section 1.2. Nasty word problems. Okay, the length of a rectangle is 3 feet less than twice the width. If the perimeter is 174 feet, find the width and find the length, okay? I'm not going to do the exact example here, so I'm just going to change some numbers. I'm going to make it 10 feet less than 3 times the width. It's going to be very similar. And the perimeter, I'm going to change that to 108. Just have a problem that's a little bit different. Okay, let's translate what we have so far. The length of a rectangle, I am just going to call that L, is, well, is usually means equals in math. 10 feet less than, well, 10 feet less than means they're taking 10 feet away from something. If you want 10 less than a number, you take 10 away from that number. So it's 10 feet less than 3 times the width. Well, 3 times the width would look like 3W, because we don't know what the width is, so we'll call it W. We don't know what the length is, so we'll call it L. Now the next sentence says if the perimeter, okay, perimeter, if the perimeter is, there's my equals, 108 feet. So we know that perimeter, whoops, let's try 108. We know that perimeter is 108 feet. If we know that perimeter is 108 feet, find the width and find the length. I like to start these types of problems by drawing a picture. There's our rectangle that we're talking about. Now the rectangle usually is labeled with length and width. We like to call one the length and one the width. That's easy enough. Now our problem gives us this information here. It says the length is 3 times the width, take away 10. Well, what that means is I can call this side the length right here, or I could call it 3W minus 10. They both mean the same thing. I can call it L or I can call it 3W minus 10. They're interchangeable. Now inside the rectangle, I'm just going to write a little note that perimeter, the perimeter of this rectangle is 108 feet. Now let's think about what perimeter means. Perimeter is just the distance around a figure. All right, so if I stood right here and I walked around this perimeter, I'd go down here and I'd go up here and I'd go down here and back to my starting point. There, I've walked around the perimeter. Now how do you calculate how far that was? Well, you just add up all the sides. So let's add up the sides on our rectangle here. We would add the length, then we'd add the width, and then I walk the length again, and then I walk the width again. Now there's easier ways of writing it, but that's basically what it is. The perimeter is just the lengths and widths all added up together. The problem here is we have too many variables. We have a p that we don't know, we have a length that we don't know, and we have a width that we don't know. We have 3 variables we don't know. So let's start looking around this word problem for information they might have given us, for numbers that we can put in for the letters. First thing I notice is that they did give us the perimeter. The perimeter is 108 feet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out the p and I'm going to replace it with 108. Now that's better, but I still have L's and W's. I still got 2 variables, and we can't solve things with 2 variables yet. We don't know how. So we need to get it down to 1 variable. We need to either write it all as L's or all as W's. So we go back up here to this information here where they told us L is the same thing, that's what equals means. L is the same thing as 3W's minus 10. So what can I do with that information? That just means that I can take out the L and replace it with 3W minus 10. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take out the L and replace it with 3W minus 10. Okay? Now you can put that in parentheses if you want to, but since we're just adding, it doesn't really matter. Plus, then comes my W, then comes another L, but remember we're replacing the L's with 3W minus 10. So I'm going to replace the L with 3w minus 10. And then finally I have that final w on the end. So it's still, if you look at it, it's still really length plus a width plus another length plus another width. We've still got everything in there, but now we have it all written as w's. So let's clean it up a little bit now. We have 108. Remember, we got our equals here, so we still got our fence. Equals. Let's look at all of those w's and see what we can put together here. We have a 3w and another w and another 3w and another w. You add all those together, you have 8 w's. So we have 8w. Now let's look at our numbers. We have a negative 10 and another negative 10. You put those together, negative 10 plus another negative 10 is negative 20. The rest of it is just algebra. Now remember, we are just back to solving here. We got to get rid of an 8 and get rid of a 20. Good rule of thumb, get rid of the one that's furthest from the w. So I get rid of the 20, and I have 128 equals 8w. And finally, that times w, I just divide, that times 8, excuse me, I just divide by 8. And I get 16 equals w. Okay, so here's where we stand. We have 16 equals w, which means we have found the width. But the question told us, find the width and the length. So we have to go back and find the length. Now, if you remember, at the very first, we translated some information that said the length is 3 times the width, take away 10. So we can calculate the length if we use that formula, 3w minus 10. Now we just came up with w must be 16. So I'm going to take out that w and put in that 16 so that I can figure out what the length is. So the length must be 3. I took out the w and put in 16. Remember to use parentheses. So anytime you take out a letter and put in a number, use parentheses. Minus 10, and then we do the math. Length equals 48, take away 10. So length must be 38. I bring down my width. Width was 16. And there's our answer. Now, I'm going to go ahead and check. You should always check your answers. And remember, perimeter was just the sides, add it all up. So if I add all the sides up, I add up a length and a width and another length and another width, because I walked all the way around that triangle. And I put that into my calculator, and it adds up to 108, which is exactly what my perimeter was supposed to be. So that works out. All right, this is an example for problem number 21. A building casts a shadow 7 feet long. At the same time, a 6-foot tall man standing near the building casts a shadow 2 feet long. Find the height of the building. All right, this is a similar triangle problem. Sorry, I'm stumbling over my words. What I like to do is start this problem with a drawing. Now, the building casts a shadow 7 foot long. We're going to call this the building, and this is going to be its shadow along the ground here, 7 feet long. The height of the building is what we're trying to find, and we don't know. Since we don't know it, since it's an unknown, I'm going to call it h. Now, a man standing near the building, the man's going to be shorter than the building, so I'll draw a smaller triangle here. A man standing near the building is 6 feet tall, and he casts a shadow 2 feet long. So usually the easiest way to solve these types of problems is to draw a picture. Alright, the easiest way to solve these types of problems is to set up a proportion. Remember, a proportion is 2 fractions set equal to each other. I like to start with my unknown, what I'm looking for. H over, now I compare it to something similar. I'm going to compare the h, which is the left side of my first triangle, to the 6 over here, which is the left side of my second triangle. So h over 6 is equal to, and now I go back to my first triangle, I'm going to pick the other length, which is my bottom length, 7, and I'm going to put it over the bottom length on the right triangle, 2. So you're just comparing similar parts of the triangles. Once you have a proportion, we talked about this, you just cross multiply. 2 times h is 2h, 6 times 7 is 42. And you set the cross multiplying equal to each other. Divide both sides by 2, and h equals 21. Now, as long as you kind of follow the same pattern, proportions are all about patterns and setting it up in the right order. We could do this a different way and get the same answer. What if I had compared my h and stayed on the same triangle and compared it to the 7? Well, let's try that and see what happens. H over 7, or h is related to 7, just like, now we go to the right triangle and we do the exact same pattern. Since we went from the h to the 7, we're going to go from the 6 to the 2 in that order. We got to go in the same order as we did on the first one. So I'm going to do 6 over 2. We're back to cross multiplying. We get 2h equals 42, and the same thing happens, and we get the same answer. So h equals 21. So there's two different ways of getting the exact same answer. You just have to follow the same pattern every time. All right, for an example for your problem, number 25, I'm going to actually work number 26 in the book, and I'll read it to you real quick. It's a business problem. It costs a restaurant owner 18 cents per glass for orange juice, which sells for 75 cents per glass. How many glasses of orange juice must the restaurant owner sell to make a profit of $2,337? Well, as you guys, if you look back at example 5 in your book, you learn that profit equals revenue minus cost. Now, revenue is how much you sell something for. So, for example, if you sell something for $2 and it costs you $1 to make, well, then your profit would be the difference of $1. Okay, let's talk about the cost. The cost for this orange juice, the restaurant owner, is going to cost him 18 cents for every glass sold, or 18 cents per the number of glasses sold. So if he sold one glass, it'd be 18 cents, 2 glasses would be 36 cents, and so on. So I'm going to write this equation as C for cost is means equals. Now this is 18 cents, but I'm going to write it as 18 or $0.18 because our answer is in dollars, so we need to put all of our units in dollar format. So I'm changing it from cents format to dollars format. So you just got to use your decimal with the dollar sign. And then per number of glasses sold. How many glasses did they sell? Well, we're not sure yet, so we're going to call it X for now. Okay, in the same manner, revenue, that's R, is equals 75 cents, we write with dollar notation, per number sold, that's times X. So let's get back to our original equation. Profit equals revenue minus cost. We just decided that our revenue is 0.75x, 75 cents per glass, minus our cost of 18 cents per glass. Remember, we're using dollar notation, so it's 0.75 and 0.18. And the profit, they told us in the word problems, they wanted to make a profit of $2,337. Now notice everything's in dollar format. So we simplify, we add those x's together, put those x's together, I say add, subtracting, it's all the same in algebra. Put those x's together, we get 0.57x. We divide both sides by 0.57. Our x is isolated. We do the math, and it's 4,100. Now, what does that answer mean? Well, 4,100 stands for the number of glasses of orange juice that the owner must sell. Must sell to do what? Well, the owner must sell 4,100 glasses of orange juice to make a profit of $2,337 to answer the question. So remember, when you're working word problems, it's always best to not stop with a number answer, okay? Since it's a word problem, they're expecting a word answer, so it's better if you write out the answer using words.